So we all know that in this industry, media evolves. It's a natural part of time progressing and taste and thought processes changing along with that. Numerous franchises have gone through many chameleon-like transformations, and we've seen some that are pretty iconic and legendary, and others that just sort of fell flat on their face. But whenever you have change, there'll always be a resistance to that change, and today we're going to dive into that rapid-fire response to Crash Team Rumble that occurred to sort of represent why change is such a tricky balancing act for any franchise. So for some background, Crash Team Rumble is a brand new multiplayer battle game coming out from Toys for Bob with Activision that takes the Crash Bandicoot 4 formula and turns it into a battle arena competition to collect the most Wampa fruit before your opposing team. This game has had numerous details basically begrudgingly leaking to the masses as we slowly found out more about the game until we finally got a full-on review this past year. And with this review, there were a lot of interesting, polarizing opinions about it, and I just think this represents such a massively misguided mindset about gaming franchises and just media in general that really is dangerous to these franchises, because this can hold a franchise back from reaching the peak that it was always meant to reach. And so let me go ahead and get into why I think that is. So with Crash Team Rumble, there were immediate negative reactions to it. And so here are some reactions that I stumbled upon on Twitter. Man, this looks so bad. Meanwhile, no Crash Team Racing PC release or update for PS5. Why does this even exist? Not gonna lie, I'm a big Crash fan, but this really isn't selling it to me. Like, I'm still gonna play regardless, but I feel like it's going to do poorly. Instant garbage, another confirmed dead ass game. Also, you're ruining Crash. Give it back to Sony. Huge fan of Crash. Thinking about skipping this one. So many asses just flipped from 4 and yet it's another battle pass. I'm so tired of battle passes. I shouldn't be surprised since it's Activision, but Crash and Overwatch are two games that should have zero overlap. Okay, so what are we getting from these tweets? These tweets are basically saying that whatever this new conjunction that Toys for Bob has come up with the Crash franchise, a lot of longtime Crash fans are not happy about it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're resistant to change. It's more so that they see the video, they see the footage, and they just simply don't like it. However, if we go a little deeper into the Twitter circle, you'll see that there's some interesting tweets of what fans would like to see instead. A Crash Bash remake. This ain't it. We needed Crash Bash. I'd take a Crash Bash remaster over this, a very underrated and seldom mentioned party game. As someone who had countless memories playing Crash Bash back in the day, I was honestly expecting something similar after this was announced. This looks pretty bare bones, and I can't see myself forking money for a party game that doesn't really offer much variety in gameplay. Remaster Crash Bash instead. So now this is interesting because now not only are we trashing the current game that's coming out soon, but we're also wishing that something from the past would come back remastered and remade in brand new glory. And so this is sort of a common thing that happens in most franchises, but this is especially prevalent with Crash, and there's some added context that will explain this. So first of all, this franchise was dormant for years after what is interpreted as a very failed experiment. Crash the Titans and Mind Over Mutant. These are two mainline Crash Bandicoot games that basically tossed out the classic 3D platforming of the previous games in favor of a trendy beat 'em up like gameplay style that a lot of different games around that time were adopting. Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant not only switched up the gameplay style, but they also switched up the art style and the overall universe that was Crash Bandicoot. Like, it was pretty much unrecognizable. I mean, you just look at pictures of Crash from before these games and during these games, and he is a completely changed character. Like, this was a full-on reboot of Crash Bandicoot, whether you liked it or not. But these games overall did not do that well, and so Crash Bandicoot was just dead for who knows how long. And the second thing I want to mention is what happened afterwards when Crash returned with the Insane Trilogy and Nitro Fueled remix. So these were remakes of classic, well-renowned Crash Bandicoot games, and they did well not only critically, but also financially. And so Crash Bandicoot was at an all-time high when these games came out, you know, selling millions and millions of copies of both of these titles and truly establishing Crash in what is one of the most iconic comebacks in the video game industry. So, you know, if you think about it, why wouldn't fans want to relish in more of what they know works? Not only have they seen what these remakes have done for Crash Bandicoot, thus thinking that a Crash Bash remake could bring some of that similar energy, but they've also seen what full-on change can do to Crash Bandicoot as well, a la Crash of the Titans and Mind Over Mutant, and they certainly don't want to return to that place. And so if you put all this stuff together, it makes a lot of sense why Crash Bandicoot fans in particular are very nervous about this game, and also why some of them even want them to continue on with remakes without a new game for the foreseeable future. But here's the thing about change. Change is absolutely necessary for any franchise to thrive for years and years. A franchise cannot survive purely off of remakes and nostalgia. It's just not how this industry has ever operated. People will get bored eventually, and that's why you always see franchises throwing something a little bit different at the wall to see if it sticks or not. Let's look at Crash's closest competitor, Mario. And so Mario has evolved plenty of times, even if you just included his mainline 3D games. You have Super Mario 64, which was kind of the bare bones 3D Mario experience, but then you had Super Mario Sunshine, which incorporated this whole mechanic around FLUDD and using all these water-based moves to navigate around the worlds. Then you had the Galaxy games, which put Mario in space and adopted a more linear format as he went through all these like gravity-defining levels that really shook up the Mario formula. And then of course you had Odyssey, which gave Mario 10,000 more capabilities with his hat and really transformed the Mario formula all over again. We can even look at Sonic, who is actually a little bit closer in terms of, you know, the path they took compared to Crash Bandicoot without the big drought in content. And so Sonic has had many changes in his games as well, but not all of them were successful. So of course we have saw the more hyper-realistic direction that Sonic was going with Shadow the Hedgehog and Sonic 06, and that eventually led to a deep decline quality in Sonic games. We've seen Sonic go in the other direction with more goofy and child-friendly like jokes with Sonic Colors and such, and now we've seen Sonic sort of return back to form with Sonic Frontiers and going for more of that adventure-based storyline and gameplay style. But of course with something completely different, which was the open world gameplay. And so with Sonic the Hedgehog, fans have plenty of reason to be scared of change, because numerous times in the past, Sonic Team and Sega have screwed up those huge changes, resulting in very deep declines of the Sonic franchise in terms of quality and popularity. But they didn't give up. They had Sonic try something new again with Frontiers, and this actually is likely going to become Sonic's best-selling 3D game of all time. And so that's pretty insane, you know, for the Sonic franchise. You know, a series that seemed to be stuck in this like mid-level tier quality bracket for the longest time seems to finally be breaking out of that, and that is because this team took risks and they finally had a risk that paid off. And so what I'm trying to get at from all this is that change can be scary and it can definitely result in the biggest of hot messes. But with change, it can also result in some of the best things to have ever happened to a franchise. You know, innovation is so important in the video game industry, and it becomes harder and harder to do that as you have more and more games and as less and less new ideas come to fruition, because everything's already been done at this point. So it's all about really just trying to take what's been done before and trying to adapt it to something that maybe wouldn't make sense with that first. I will say that there does seem to be a good subsection of fans that are also really excited for Crash Team Rumble. Let's go! We love you, Crash! The game looks amazing. I really hope we see lots more classic characters added to the game, as this game does have great potential to do well. We all in the lobby on day one, y'all. I'm looking forward to this game. I really hope to see my favorite characters, Pinstripe and Komodo Joe, playable at some point. I'm so hyped for this game. So to share my quick opinion on Crash Team Rumble thus far, I do have my doubts about the game. Based on the footage I've seen so far, it seems like it's just adopting Crash 4's control layout, but with a more competitive edge framing it. But it doesn't really look like the most fast-paced experience, and I'm just afraid of it dragging on for too long. It also seems like an experience that could easily be imbalanced, though I suppose that's why they're going to have an open beta to sort of test things out. However, we've seen multiple publications come out who have actually gotten their hands on this game and have been nothing but positive about it so far, talking about how fun it was, how competitive the game actually is, and how it feels like something brand new and different but familiar at the same time. So maybe Toys for Bob is onto something with this weird multiplayer platformer hybrid they got going on. But I am very impressed by what they're doing here, because from Crash Team Rumble, what I'm seeing here is that Crash is aiming for a bit of a timelessness that's very similar to Mario, but in a way that feels authentic to the franchise. This isn't just some Mario Party clone or some like Fortnite clone or anything like that. This is taking what's popular in gaming right now but adapting it to the Crash formula. So Crash is not being like, the whole basis of Crash Bandicoot is being maintained with this new type of game. You know, you're still playing as the Crash Bandicoot characters, you still got double jump, you still got spin attack, you still got all the classic Crash Bandicoot moves. It's still a platformer in the way that it feels, but it's being framed in a way that seems very interesting and innovative. And I really dig that. I really dig it when they're taking these genuine good ideas with these game franchises and making something really great out of them. And so I've heard nothing but good things about Crash Team Rumble so far. I do have a good feeling that it's going to be a positive change for Crash Bandicoot. And I just hope what people take away from this is that I understand that change is scary and that it can lead to some of the biggest hot messes and some very big consequences for any franchise, but you can't just simply do the same thing over and over again and just continue riding off that same success. People get bored. People want change. You know, even if you don't want change, you secretly will want it because you can't just play the same thing over and over again and be satisfied with it. It's just not a natural human tendency. And so I applaud Toys for Bob and Activision for taking a risk, but taking a risk that seems strategic and smart and not just throwing at the wall like they would in the past. And so I'm excited for Crash Team Rumble. I think it looks solid and I do have my reservations about it, but I'm excited to try it out. I should be getting access to open beta, so if you want some of my thoughts on the open beta, then definitely subscribe to the channel so you'll get to know when I put up my thoughts about that. But in the meantime, I will say that look at all new ideas with an open mind. Gaming franchises cannot operate based off of just the same ideas over and over again, and change is exciting and can lead to great payoff. I mean, the best publishers and the best game developers know how to utilize change in a way that's effective, and I'm hoping that Activision and Toys for Bob are one of those developers. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I got over here. If you want to learn more about every single detail we know about Crash Team Rumble so far, then check out the video in the top left corner. But alright y'all, thank you so much. This is Riders.